Give you a quick mushroom update, in which there's going to be no real update because the mushrooms haven't done anything on my little mushroom kit I bought myself. It was supposed to be a golden oyster kit, and so like you buy the kit and it just contains like the substrate, and then you order through their QR code, which came with the kit, the genetics which you then put in. But I was being impatient and I was being too excitable, and I basically done the whole thing wrong. Also, it seems I'm going to leave the kit up there to see whether it does actually fruit for another few days or a week and just see what happens. If nothing else happens, I'll just throw the whole thing into the garden, and if there is any genetic stuff left in there, then maybe I'll actually get some mushrooms in the garden. But of course I'll have to place it very carefully because I don't want it to eat into the garden fence or the shed or anything else which actually needs to stay there and not be eaten up. But that doesn't mean to say that my interest in fungi for the purposes of food cultivation has gone. The interest is still there. In fact, I've been spending a bit of my time looking into various different blogs and websites and all the rest of that to try and get more perspective about this so I could then do it better next time. Which is why I've now ordered the genetics for shiitake and enoki mushrooms. Enokis are these long, thin, white mushrooms with a tiny little cap, and they're used in, I think it's Japanese stir fry. So the flavour could be quite nice, and apparently it's quite a prolific one, so it might produce rather a lot of biomass. And I've been slowly getting together the equipment that I would need to be able to make this stuff. And I got some coconuts coir thing, which is now stored somewhere. And I've got little boxes which I can start growing things in and that sort of stuff. And so it's all really rather exciting and interesting. But then it's a question of, will I be able to bring it up, create this thing and bring it up to the point whereby it could actually reliably make food. Interesting point of view here. I have noticed that occasionally on the Gumtree classified apps website, people offer sawdust, sometimes even for free. So you can just like take it off their hands because, I don't know, they're related to a sawmill or something, and you can just use it for whatever it is you want to use sawdust for. Interesting. Interesting because if it's a deciduous sawdust, okay, then that could be used as a bulk substrate, thus cutting down the cost of actually making mushrooms. So then the only thing you would need is something to produce grain spawn, namely rice, brown rice, prepared in a certain way with the help of pressure cooking and all that kind of stuff. And the original genetic material, and provided of course you're using proper sanitary protocols to cut down the risk of any other form of fungal infection which could be competing with the mushrooms you're trying to grow, then you will, which will of course use like rubbing alcohol and that sort of stuff, that then you should be able to make food from essentially a waste product. And me being a bit of a sort of like a light green semi-permaculture type weird person who thinks this stuff is like good for the human body, natural, organic, freshly grown stuff, as well as good for the rest of the planet, this could be a possible thing. Obviously, there's a whole spectrum, isn't there, between having like a great idea and putting it into practice, because like it's only when you put it into practice and you test it through the fires of reality, okay, then it's something that can be useful and can work. Full stop, finito at the end of argument, okay? Because if it's not tested in the fires of reality, then it's just fantasy. Okay, and that goes with all manner of stuff out there, okay? And the things I've carried on with are, using rife frequency therapy with frequency generators to try and help the health of my body. That has been proven as a result of reality, okay? Lots of the other things I've done in my life which is connected to this channel, they have been tested, and the right kind of attitude I think I probably created for those things. But when it comes to a viable, rational, intelligent form of permaculture on a small scale for just like an individual to do at home, do I think that mushroom could be a way forward? Do I think that mushroom could possibly be it? Hypothetically. Yeah. But it's still hypothetical. I've got to make sure I don't get impatient. I've got to make sure I do use proper hygienic procedures and all this stuff. And I've got to make sure I'm thinking it through and doing it right. And have enough time to be able to manage these things. But we'll just have to see how it goes. It's still an experiment. But, just see what happens, man.